name's Dan Mitchell, born and raised in New Hartford, New York. Joined the military in 1989. I went in, I was a medic, and I served in the Gulf War, and I also served in Somalia. And got out in 1993, and wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do at that point. You know, as a medic, while I was in, I was thinking about medical school and thinking about all these different ideas. But I ended up going up to Alaska and doing the fishing boats for a little while, and just tried to get my head right. I knew something wasn't exactly 100%. You know, when I got out of the service, I knew something wasn't exactly right, but I didn't know what that was. So it kind of took me on a quest. I re-entered the fitness industry, which I had been in before I went into the military. And I was the athletic director at the Buffalo Club here in Buffalo. I moved to Buffalo in 1995. And I was the athletic director at the Buffalo Club from 2001 to 2006. And then I opened my own facility in 2006, which I had until 2013. And I had a really major breakdown in 2013, resulting from what I now understand is untreated PTSD. And I went through various VA rehabs and got a tremendous amount of support and help from the vet center and from the VA. And I opened this facility about a year ago in it was September of 21 or 20. I'm sorry, September of 20. So yeah, so that's my story. I am the mentor coordinator for the Buffalo Veterans Treatment Corps. I'm the president of the Buffalo Veterans Mentor Group. I get the opportunity to work with veterans who are going through treatment, who have been arrested and are getting treatment to heal, and then their arrest records change as a result of going through the treatment process. I'm also a facilitator for the whole health program. After I opened this facility, shortly after I opened it, I heard about this whole health program that the VA was putting together. So I went and checked it out, and I loved it. It made more sense than anything I'm seeing in the commercial industry. It made a lot of sense. So I went for the training course there. It was about a 35-hour training course. And now I'm one of the facilitators. I teach the Introduction to Taking Charge of My Life and Health program, which is a 9-week program. It goes by really fast. And it helps a person, it helps a veteran to really understand what they want their health for. It identifies the fact that veteran is the center of the process, and what they need and what their wants are the center of the process. So it's not icon driven. It's not like, okay, you need to do this. It's more, what do you want? What are your goals, aspiration, purpose, mission? What do you want to do? So I'm involved in that. I have been also involved pretty heavily with Higher Ground New York, the Higher Ground program. I've gone on a number of ice climbing, rock climbing trips with them. And as a matter of fact, next week, I'm going to meet Higher Ground in the Adirondacks for an ice climbing trip, which will be, for me, my 2-year anniversary of my relationship with Higher Ground. And that's a big, long story all in itself. I participate in the KIA Road March program event that Jason Jaskula put together, created, developed, and runs. He's a phenomenal guy. That's pretty much. 2 years ago, this week, a guy by the name of Trey Randall, he and I we went out to Batavia and came back. We were doing some stuff out there, And he asked me if I would be interested in going on the first ever Higher Ground New York ice climbing trail. And I said yes, and I went. And up to that point, I had been going through some pretty intensive counseling for PTSD, but I had been isolated. I had been alone. I hadn't reached outside of kind of my own perimeter, my house. So the idea of going somewhere and staying for a week was like, whoa, this is crazy. But I went, and from the first, so you use axes and crampons on your feet to climb up these ice walls. And I'd never done it before. And from the very first strike of the axe, I just fell in love with it. I knew absolutely for sure it was the right thing for me. And it's a binary process. You're either climbing or you're not. The concreteness of climbing to the top, of getting to the top, is very gratifying, very satisfying. I love the physicality of it, and I loved just the feel of being able to do it. And the really important part is that it got me into community. It broke me out of that isolation. It broke me out of that kind of that myth of individuality, where I say, oh, I can do it all myself. I can do it all myself. And it got me into a community that actually was doing it, so that now all of a sudden I find myself intertwined in relationships with these people who I never would have met, and never would have come in contact with. And some of these folks, we became really good friends, and this has continued on. So it wasn't just like a one-time event. Since that time, I've gone ice climbing a number of times in different places, out in New Hampshire, down in the Finger Lakes, back up in the Adirondacks. So it started something for me that I never knew would be there, and it was so beautiful. I think what I would communicate, and what I try to communicate, is that it's already there. The community is already there. The connections are already there. The only thing that's missing in that equation is my decision to become a part of these things, or to even just a willingness to allow myself to communicate with people in a way that's a little bit uncomfortable for me at the time, because I've been so isolated and I've been so self-contained. But once that first step is made, once that first courageous step into community is made, it changes your life. It makes life a different place to be. The opportunities that come up, the people that you meet, the relationships that you build, the experiences that you get to have are all a result of taking that step into what's already there. You don't have to create it, you don't have to build it, you just have to say yes. The business, I opened this facility specifically to assist veterans and their families find a way to exercise, to using exercise for mental health. Physical exercise is very well documented as changing neurochemistry. So engaging in proper physical exercise facilitates enhancement of serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, all of the neurochemicals that make life a better place to be. It gets toxins out of the system. It enriches the body. You got about a 2-hour window immediately following exercise where all of your cognitive capacities are enhanced, concentration, creativity, problem-solving skills, interpersonal relationships are all enhanced for about a 2-hour window before they fall back to somewhat, around where they started. But the more that we do this, the higher baseline becomes. So that's the goal of the facility, is to have a center where veterans and their families and caregivers can reliably go to get high quality health and fitness treatment, certified through the American College of Sports Medicine and also the American Council on Exercise. This is 100 Gelston Street. Parallels Niagara Street, right over by Rich Products. The name of my business is Your Body to Mind. And the reason I named it that is to emphasize the point that we use our bodies to change our mind. That the body is a vehicle. It's the most remarkable machine of 4 billion years of evolution, right? And we need to learn how to use it. It's just like anything. You know, if we had a really expensive car, we had, you know, something of super high value that was very technologically complex. We need to learn how to use it. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm doing with this facility, is helping people to understand the value of what we have with our bodies and how we can use our bodies to enhance mental health. The best way is to go through the one-stop. The best way is to go to the one-stop, enroll in the services that are available there, because there's many more services than just a fitness facility. And then Dan Arnold had set up through the PFC Dwyer program, sending people here through that program. So the best idea for a veteran who would be interested in coming here would be first to link up with the one-stop and then come here. Or if they wanted to just come here on their own, absolutely. Come in, I can show exactly what I do and how it's done and how it works properly. The reason that I am focusing on the veterans community is because the veterans community saved my life. That's not an overstatement. It's not glorifying or trying to make it bigger than it is. The veterans community here in Western New York saved my life and brought me to a way of life that I didn't know was available to me. I want to be here to do that for the next veteran who's in the type of situation that I was in, and help them, or any veteran, you know, at any stage. It's not necessary to be in crisis mode to want to learn about your body. Anybody, any veteran from any era, you know, who has whatever the background or lack of background, I am creating a facility where veterans can come to learn how to really take care of themselves, and that's what drives me. You are my tribe. You are my people. And I feel a responsibility, a great privilege and responsibility to be a part of this. And that's why I'm building this, so that veterans who need it, can find it. A big part of health and fitness is creative artistic expression and what we can do with our health. So that's really the goal of getting healthy. It's not just sitting on our health and saying, okay, I'm healthy, which is wonderful, but what do we do with it? And I carved this statue. It took me about 3 years. I started with a chainsaw and roughed it out with a chainsaw, and then did everything with hammer and chisel from there with the hammer and chisel. This is St. Ignatius in his pre-conversion status as a Spanish soldier. He was a pretty tough guy, very, very tough guy. In fact, this wood is very tough. This is referred to as rock maple. It's one of the hardest woods I've ever carved. I wore out chisels on. I keep it here to remind me of a couple of things. One, just some things from my past about how I got health, how I came back to health and why I came back to health. But I also keep it here to remind me that it takes time to build something. It's took me about 3 years. It takes time, but it's one cut at a time. when I was carving this, it was one hammer at a time. My life here is just, it's one day at a time, building something beautiful, and it takes time. So when veterans come in and they're looking to engage in this process, one of the first things that I say is that it's a discipline of love, and it takes time. We add one day to the next day, and it grows and grows and becomes more interesting, and it opens up, and the layers start to fall away. That's the process. That's what I do. You can do more with these than you can with most entire gyms of fixed machines. So we start with static lines to get a sense of how the body moves with a stable anchor position. Then you come over here, and I know that this doesn't look like much, but with these TheraBands, you do many of the same exercises you do with the static lines, but now you're using a dynamic line, which requires an entirely different core stability, a different breathing pattern, a different sense of rootedness into the floor. So what we're developing is an understanding of how the body works at its strongest. And then we come over here and go on to the functional trainer. Very much so, the functional trainer is the best machine, in my opinion. Best like machine out there. You move the movement arms up and down to change the pull of gravity. So normally when we're working with standard dumbbells and barbells and these things, which are all fantastic, we have one way of gravity, up and down. So the really cool thing about the static, dynamic, and the functional trainer lines is that we can move the anchor points to change what the pull of gravity is to make the body adapt in different ways to what's happening. And then kettlebells, a lot of cool exercises with kettlebells. The facility is intentionally left open with a lot of open space. I practice and instruct Tai Chi and Qigong. I like to have the open space for that. I also instruct Aikido, pull the pads out sometimes for people who are interested in that, and we get into some of those exercises. But I left it open, and I'm leaving it open intentionally to create this sense of expansiveness, openness. When we do the exercises that we do correctly, we do them in the proper pattern so that the person who's engaging in the process really understands how their body works. We're not just counting repetitions. We're learning what the body feels like when it's being worked properly.